The Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Alan Mia with you one more time this Aloha Friday, our YouTube Friday shows. We're going back to our old angle that Ku'u gave us the first time that we ever tried one of these. Tried something different last week. And Alan, before I get into last week's episode and what's going on with that, I wanted to ask you, how are we doing to close out another week? We've talked about it a bit. You and Ku'u almost tagging out one another at the airport. Can you feel the vacation within reach?
Nope.
Oh.
Uncle Alan is not doing good today.
Oh, that's okay. Hopefully that means Uncle Alan had a good night.
Uncle Alan went out last night. My cousin is getting married, so I'll just take this moment to say congratulations on the upcoming wedding of my cousin Kyle, which is actually my wife's cousin. So I'm married into the family, of course, and his beautiful bride-to-be, Erin, and her family flew in from Korea. Just a sweet, sweet family, and I get to MC it. But last night was the rehearsal dinner, and then we all decided to go out after. And I gotta keep reminding myself, like I'm not young anymore. This is not working for me.
It takes a little bit longer to recover as you go on, but I'm glad that you had fun. It did look like you had a pretty good time last night.
Had a great time. If you follow me on social media, I apologize. We were singing. Oh, it was good times. We were singing karaoke. And just, it's just family being family together and having a moment before it gets kind of crazy in the next day and, of course, Saturday for sure.
Well, and that's the thing, especially with weddings. The beautiful part of it is you're able to spend some of the greatest moments with your friends, family, and whoever is important to you. So I'm glad that you're able to be a part of that process. And also, emceeing a wedding, have you done that before?
Yeah, I've actually, out of my closest group of friends, I've either married them, because I'm an officiant as well,
it's good to
or
know.
I've either married them or I've emceed their weddings. So I do it quite often. But this one is special because normally the groom's father is the MC for all of our family events, and this is the first time that I'll get to take over those reins, of course, while he gets to just celebrate his son and his new daughter-in-law. So, but no, I'm looking forward to it. I've done it before, so it's just another day in paradise for me. But no, it's a special time and a special occasion. And like I said, we went to a wonderful dinner last night at one of my favorite restaurants, and then of course we just hung out into the wee hours of the morning. And then I realized, I'm not young anymore. I can't do this. This is not a good thing for me right now.
Sometimes that happens, but here's the thing. Just as you get older doesn't mean you're not allowed to still have fun.
Oh, no. I had a good time. And I got to thank my wife. My wife, of course, watched the baby last night and allowed me that moment where I could just spend it with Kyle and his bride-to-be, Erin. So it was good times. I really had a great time. But, I'm paying the price today.
And that happens, and you know what? That's okay on this Aloha Friday. Still going to be a super fun show. Like I mentioned, our YouTube Friday shows got our one camera set up in the corner today. Our last show before Ku'u returns back to the seat for me, and I step back over for you over there. So
we're going to switch roles.
Going to be exciting, though, because especially, hopefully afterwards, you're going to get a chance to just relax and recover a bit with the family.
I'm excited. I mean, I get to take my daughter to Disneyland for her birthday. I get to celebrate my sister's birthday, which is the day before my daughter's birthday. But more importantly, I get to spend time with my grandmother. Don't know if she'll know who I am. She didn't know who I was the other day when I FaceTimed her, but I'm looking forward to spending time with that lady because she is truly a remarkable human being and one of my most favorite people in the world who absolutely means the world to me. So I'm praying. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm hoping she just has at least while we're there one good day where she gets to remember who I am. And because her and I are so close we're just so close. We're inseparable. Hoping she just has one more day or a night of just knowing who I am, who Lauren is, and of course who Kenzie is. We were one of the last that she remembered. So, we're just holding on that maybe we can squeeze one more good day out of her.
Yeah, well,
I mean, don't get me wrong. Health-wise, she's perfect.
Of course.
96-year-old, man, this lady is...
Can't ask for much more.
This lady is more active than I am. It's just, unfortunately, Alzheimer's, just takes its effect on the brain and the memory. So
no, it's a brutal, brutal thing, and I'm sorry to hear that you got to go through it. Yeah, I mean, at 96?
96, my grandmother is just moving and grooving, and I love her to death. And, she still wants to go outside, garden. She gardens every morning. I mean, she does it all.
It reminds me of my Grammy back home. Shout out to her. She's, I believe, turning 91 this upcoming August.
Good life.
And and she always has been a big proponent of the way you live the longest is you keep active. She is somebody who has gone on walks for as long as I can remember.
That's
just a
awesome.
day, at least a walk a day. And this is a woman who I watched once break her hip and have to have that replaced, and that didn't necessarily go well. So the recovery process was long. So seeing that is very, very cool. And similarly, as you get older, your mental might not be as sharp, but physically, it's incredible post 90.
Yeah, and real quickly, I know we got off on this tangent, but like my grandmother, up until 93, was golfing and driving. We finally had to take it away, of course, because she's crazy, that lady. But but she golfed with a group of her girlfriends every week, and this was up until 93. She's just turned 96, so I mean. Just up until 3 years ago, she was driving and doing perfect. That's how quickly Alzheimer's and dementia hits you.
Yeah.
And then also, of course, man, at 93, I'll be lucky if I'm walking, let alone playing golf.
Oh, my gosh. I hope I make it into my 90s. I think that'd be awesome.
You know what? At the rate I go and my surgery and everything, I'm like, I don't know, man. I know my body one day is going to come back to haunt me. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be around for that.
I'm getting my miles out of it now, that's for sure. All right. Enough about our families, I guess.
Real quickly, before we go on, I just want to shout out to Dallas Correa, former HPU head coach, and now with the University of Hawai'i baseball team. Got to see him last night. He's a part of the wedding party, which is a small world because I had no idea he knew Kyle, let alone that they're like best friends. And they've grown up together and done everything together. So shout out. I got to sit down and just spend some quality time with Dallas as well. He says he listens to our show. He downloads the podcast to make sure he doesn't miss it. So I just want to say, how's it to Dallas, and thanks for tuning in. He was like, are you going in tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, I got to. Unfortunately.
No days off for Uncle Alan.
No days off for Uncle Alan.
Well, no, absolutely. Shout out to one of all of our listeners, really. Anyone who takes the time to tune in each morning or download the podcast.
And Dallas did a phenomenal job at HPU, and then, he's starting to live out his dream of what he wants to achieve and get to, and now he's at the University of Hawai'i, so that's a big step up, and and that's what you want out of coaches. You always, if they're gonna leave, make sure it's a step up, and he definitely did it. And so I'm proud of Dallas, and he's such a great guy. I love when the moments I get to talk to him because he's real. He gives it to me honest. Like whenever we would do those interviews, pregame interviews, man, he just gave it to me real. He was honest with me, and I love it for it because not all coaches are that way.
No, not even close to that way. And to get good answers and real answers out of a coach, especially a head coach, it can be like pulling teeth at times.
No, that's why I was telling him too. Like last night, I was like, that's why I love Bob Coolin for the University of Hawaii softball team. But Coach Coolin used to give it to me straight. He'd be like, why is so-and-so not playing? Well, she ain't hitting. I'm like, oh, well, okay then.
But that's the thing.
Tell her to quit striking out. She'll be playing. I'm like, oh, okay then. No, but he gave it to you real. And he wasn't just that way on air for a show. He told the players that too. And so the players knew. So they weren't caught off guard when they heard it. And they knew what was expected of them. And I can respect that because a lot of coaches right now won't go that route.
No, I can also respect that. That's honestly the way growing up playing sports, that's the way that I wanted to be coached, was like, I didn't want you to sugarcoat things. I didn't want you to go out of your way to try and make me feel better. I didn't want you to be super mean, but you can also still deliver a message.
You know what? I didn't need my coaches to be mean. You know why? My mom was the worst. My mom used to heckle the crud out of me when I was a kid and playing ball.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're probably your biggest critic anyway.
No. My mom
still
is.
Mom?
Mom.
So shout out Mom.
Dude, shout out Mom, man. I'm excited I get to see her, too, because my mom and I,
We talk about it, family times.
Bruh, she was like the hardest critic. Everyone would be like, whose mom is that? And I'd be like,
I don't know.
Some crazy lady from the streets. No, that's mine.
I'm glad you brought up UH athletics. That's actually where I wanted to get us going here today. Talk about some Bows to the pros, Bows playing in some summer leagues, and I'll take us to the UH baseball team actually first. So their returners won't be taking too much of a break, along with some of their newcomers. Just a couple of weeks after the conclusion of the baseball season, program announced where returnees and newcomers are going to be honing their craft over the summer. Posted a nice little graphic, the Bows of summer, and you can see players like Jordan Donahue, Kyson Donahue, Dallas Duarte, and Stone Meow we've talked about ad nauseum since his walk-off hit, along with somebody who is committed to UH, Elijah Iquez, who we saw play for Kamehameha Kapalama in the state championship game, a phenomenal baseball player, a shortstop, and he'll be playing this summer for a team as well. And I don't know. It's going to be cool to see all these guys get going. The list is pretty extensive, almost 20 players on there playing for a variety of different organizations and teams over this summer. So you can see that the Bows, they're not pleased with where they ended up this year. They might be happy to take one more step forward, but the work has only just begun.
Yeah, the work has just begun, and that's what I was getting a chance to talk to Dallas about too. Elijah Iquez is a huge pickup for the University of Hawaii. The recruiting is getting there. They even in getting to talk, it was just basically, we know the roster's not where it's supposed to be, but we're darn close. And what they're getting out of the players they do have is no knock on them, because they're turning to be phenomenal players themselves. And I was telling Dallas, I said, that's an indication of how good your coaching staff is. Being able to turn, like you and I talked about the other day, the C player into a B player, the B player into an A player. And that's what they're doing. And that's why, you should go support these guys, because the coaching staff is phenomenal. They really relate to the kids as well as they reach the kids. And I think that's a huge difference. Being able to reach the kids, meaning, being able to speak to them and they understand exactly what you're saying, but also at the same time relate to them so that when they talk back to you, you understand what they're trying to say. And so it goes a long way. So the coaching staff is phenomenal. And then, like I said, they're developing. Because I'll be honest. This roster, when Rich Hill and his staff took over, I wasn't quite sure about it. But the way they have developed them, my Lord, they are good.
And that's the point of coaching. That's what you want from your coaching staff as well. You want lines of open and honest communication with your players, and you want your players to feel they're able to communicate back with you. And then as coaches, your full job is to develop these young men into better baseball players and into better people. And that's what you're doing by having those lines of communication, by having whatever they do in practice, by doing whatever they do to improve game in and game out.
And but the thing is, as they're getting the recruits in right now and the signs, I think the reality is the draft is coming up soon, and like any program across the nation, they're probably holding on to their hats, hoping maybe that they're going to be able to retain some of them. Not all of them, but some of them, of course, because that draft comes up in I think a few weeks from now, and so. I'm excited for the draft because a lot of these kids deserve that opportunity and that shot. But, you're going to have to try to hold on to some, not only recruits coming in, but also some of the players on UH. That's how good they've done, is they turn these guys into major league, minor league, major league baseball talent. So, and that's kudos to them. And things are going to get a little bit interesting come next year because some rule changes just came about.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. We'll talk about those at some point as well. Probably not today. Got to step aside real quick. Thanks for joining us here on Wake Up in the Den. Still plenty more to talk about in terms of UH athletics and more. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM and AM 760.
That was the remix. You got two songs at once.
That's what you do, Alan. You're. I always say you're the one that makes it happen on the board. Try my best to fill in when you're here. Welcome back.
I don't know if that remix made sense to anybody.
Made sense to me.
Two songs that didn't even go well together. We're on top of each other.
I feel like I hear that on the radio plenty nowadays. We can try it. Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Alan Mia, still on the mics on this Aloha Friday, our YouTube Friday. You can check us out on our YouTube channel. Got just our one camera set up here today. Can also always get in on the conversation with us. Got our text line set up here at Hawaii Sports Radio Network now. Shoot us a text, 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481 if you want to get in on the conversation. Want to continue talking about some of the latest happenings in UH athletics, going to men's volleyball first and foremost. Jakob Tella, who is a beloved member or was a beloved member of the Bows these past few years all throughout, one of the greatest players to come through the system, the all-time service ace record holder, Jakob Tella. Well, he'll be beginning his professional career in Italy, playing for AS Volley Lube. Della was the 2023 AVCA National Player of the Year, a multi-time first-team All-American setter that was a back-to-back winner of the Big West Player of the Year honor. He's going to join another former Big West Player of the Year type of talent in Long Beach State outside hitter Alexander Nikolov, the 2022 AVCA National Player of the Year, who went pro after just one season in college. So a little bit of familiarity in a sense of you're seeing somebody you've competed against relatively recently in the college ranks, and some real young talent on AS Volley Lube to start to reload. I was reading a little bit more about their roster, their program, and they apparently have an all-world setter already, which is the position, obviously, that Jakob has made the name for himself at UH. He's getting older, and a pretty good player to
they're retooling.
Yeah, to bring in to reload, to retool. Should he start to move into the twilight of his career, Jakob Tella, we've seen what he can do here in Hawaii, and I can only imagine how much better he can get as he moves to the professional ranks.
Yeah, and you look at well, Lube, they founded it only in 1990, so they're a young program as well with already multiple championships and European championships. So, they're a force to be reckoned with, and like you said, they already got their world-class setter, and now you're adding another one in the ranks, and who will have time to kind of mature to the pro game, the pro style. And so super excited for him, the Bows and the pros, and especially in men's volleyball and women's volleyball, just doing phenomenal things out there, and we always support from afar. So, he's basically taking, the love of Hawaii all the way to playing with his new club now in Volley Lube.
Yeah, it's so cool. While I was looking at all the quote tweets of the official announcement, and most of the ones that were in English were Bows fans talking about how, I've always wanted to go to Italy. Looks like I have to make a trip over to Italy, etc. Because this player has been so beloved here in Hawaii for so long.
People will travel to go watch him. He's become a son of Hawaii.
And that's not to mention, volleyball is beloved by the people of Hawaii to begin with.
Yeah.
So you add in somebody who fell in love with the culture, who really encapsulated himself with what he needed to do to become part of the culture here, become a part of the locals here. And like you said, he's almost a local son at this point to Hawaii. So cool to see the amount of support that he's going to get going forward. And like I mentioned, a familiar face on the roster already in terms of a former Big West foe at Long Beach.
Yeah, he gets to play with one of the best at that time in the world too, in Alex Nikolov. So, just phenomenal talent. And getting to play with your rivals is really good, because you see a different side of them. You understand, I know when you play better competition, you're always like, I wonder what it would be like to play with so-and-so. Well, now you get that opportunity, and you guys get to grow together in this game. Although, I know, Nikolov's been a pro a little bit longer, but But at the same time, you guys are still real young and early in your careers that you guys are going to get to, hopefully be together for a while and create that relationship that Yaka was able to create here in his 3 years at the University of Hawaii.
I sit here and I think about what he did with Dimi.
4 years.
He's so good, and it seems that no matter who was on the court with him, he immediately had really good chemistry. Even first-year players, if he was on the court with them this season, it seemed like they had been playing together for the entirety of Tela's Hawaii career. Wanted to keep it with the Bows volleyball program because the Moana Lua Big Three that we've covered ad nauseum this season, the ones that are committed to the University of Hawaii at Manoa.
All-Americans.
First team All-America selections, by the way. AVCA announced earlier this week their first, second team All-Americans, and all three of them made the first team. They actually Hawaii led all programs with 3 first-team All-Americans, the only school to have 3 first-teamers. Defending champion UCLA add 2 first-teamers. Penn State adds 1 first-teamer and a pair of second-teamers. So all the top teams obviously reloading, but nobody like the Bows. Bows bringing in 3 first-team All-America selections.
And right in our backyard, too. And that's what we always say. In order to compete, you got to keep the best talent home at least.
Absolutely.
And you're starting to see that in football. Starting to turn that route where some of our better, some of our really good local football players are deciding to stay home to defend, Hawaii. And then also you look at the other sports, too. Baseball is starting to stay home, buy into that program that Rich Hill is selling them. And and now you're seeing it in the ranks of course, volleyball is now we're getting them to stay home instead of go to the Power Fives, because guess what? We might not be Power Five, but we're national champions.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to beat that.
Yeah,
man.
hard to beat that, and you get to stay home and play in front of the best crowd in the world as far as volleyball is concerned. In collegiate volleyball. So, I mean, what more could you ask for?
Well, that's the thing. I sit here and I think about what I saw this past season, the previous season, with the love that Hawaii shows to volleyball all the way down to the high school ranks. Even Moana Lua, their gym was packed night in and night out. And so it's going to be something that they're used to, except it's going to be even bigger, both in terms of the stage and the amount of people watching them next season as they join the Bows. And when we're talking about successful Bows programs, Alan, I have an easy transition right over to the Rainbow Wahine, the women's basketball program. Wanted to give a shout out to assistant coach Alex Delaney. He was named as part of the 2023 75 Rising Stars for Impactful Women's Mid-Major Assistants. The list has produced over 20 new head coaches from selections over the past 4 seasons. Delaney spent 5 seasons with the Rainbow Wahine with eyes to a 6th. It's been split over 2 different stints with a stop on the Pine for UCSB as as an associate head coach for the 2017-18 season. Fellow New Yorker, so shout out my guy right there, another East Coaster. He usually has his biggest hand in working with the post players and putting together offensive game plans, both of which we saw this past year really be a key part to the Bows or the Rainbow Wahine winning another Big West title, getting another chance to go play in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, the biggest thing that comes to mind is the play with Deja Phillips right towards the end to take the lead and send them to the tournament. He's also a USC grad, so shout out another one of our partners here, as we're an affiliate of USC. Spent time as their director of ops from 2010 to 2013. So really, really just a big congratulations to Alex Delaney, who had himself another phenomenal year on the Pine for the Rainbow Wahine.
Yeah, what a coup for head coach Laura Beeman to get Alex, because I remember when I was more heavily involved with the program. I always said to myself, like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? What's his story? And then seeing him progress throughout the years here, really falling in love with our islands and our culture here, and embracing it, and then therefore making sure he teaches the girls the love of our home and our Aina, and then watching him also just his basketball acumen, his IQ, so smart. And sometimes the associate coaches and the assistant coaches don't really get a good nod for that because they don't understand how much work they put in. But let me tell you something, Alex works. He works and he works and he works at his craft and making sure he not only does he teach, but he's also learning himself. And so it's been phenomenal to watch him. And kudos to him and congratulations, a well-deserved award. And that just shows that, he is taking the country by storm and people are noticing his efforts.
Absolutely. And like you said, very, very well-deserved for somebody who is incredibly smart, incredibly talented, and really just an overall nice guy. Every time I've gotten a chance to speak with him, really a kind individual. It seems you've gotten a chance to work with the Rainbow Wahine a bit closer than I have, and even you have better things to say, it almost seems. Wanted to talk about one last person who has shown a lot of aloha to Hawaii. Neil Everett announced he's moving on from ESPN after 23 years yesterday. He always showed the true meaning of aloha on TV. And he also consistently gave props to Hawaii, it seemed. I noticed that. And then yesterday, I have had a chance to follow a lot of people here in Hawaii on Twitter, and they were all showing tons of love, tons of aloha towards him as he moved to the next stage of his career.
Yeah, he was a main staple for the mothership, the network for 20-something years, and he's developed a lot of great relationships. And I think the one thing you learn about Neil, as I have learned through the years of knowing him, is what you see is what you get. Like, he is genuine. He cares about others. He's not about himself. He wants to make sure the others around him are taken care of before himself, and it's selfless. He's so selfless. It's beautiful to see. He's a great human being, and even like people see his quirkiness, but make no mistake about it. Neil is one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life, and I'm proud of his next venture as he's gonna go and do a little bit more with the Portland Trail Blazers, where he just got on their, I think it's their pregame show. I think it was maybe a year or two ago that he signed on with that, but now he's going to be able to get to do more. And the reality is the landscape for ESPN is just changing by the day. And Neil's not going to be the first one. He'll be, Chris Chelios was another one, although he wasn't at the network that long, only a couple years. And you're talking about a Hall of Famer there in the NHL. But you're starting to see a little bit of a change in the landscape of broadcasting and what the network's going to be doing as far as their lineup, whether it's being an anchor or a play-by-play guy. You're already starting to see changes with Diamond Sports Group or Bali. It's known as the Bali Sports West, whatever. All their regional sports networks, the RSNs. Even look at the Angels. The Los Angeles Kings. In hockey, because of that situation, they're getting rid of their TV guy, not renewing him, and then they're going to simulcast radio and TV. But keep in mind, they don't have a radio station. They're kind of trendsetters, as they went to the first they went to their own app. That's how they broadcast their games, on the iHeartRadio platform, which we're onto. So the thing is, the landscape of TV and radio is all changing, and so Neil's only one of many few that you're gonna start to see a lot of changes come about, and unfortunately for Neil, fortunately for Neil, not unfortunately, fortunately for Neil, is he just wanted to do more back in Portland, and kudos to him, and I'm glad he goes out on his own terms, so to speak. I know they're gonna say it's not renewing his contract, but I think it's mutual. I think he wanted to go and do big things, try different projects, because 23 years or 20-something years is, that's a good run. And I think anyone has been given that right now to kind of figure out what they want to do and their next step.
Yeah, I think you frame it exceptionally well. It's a ever so changing landscape here in sports media, especially at ESPN, that we've seen over the past few years, and it's going to continue over the next few years as well, and probably past that. The changes are inevitable, and if you can stay in front of them like Neil kind of did, getting that job with Portland and doing something he still really enjoys and loves, that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, Oregon native, and then, came to school out here and fell in love with our islands, and we fell in love with him. And so, I'm glad to see that he's going to get to do more, because I think he's always wanted to do more, but just because of his obligations at SportsCenter LA, it was hard to commit to more, but now he gets that opportunity. And, It sucks because we're so used to seeing them in our homes at night that we're not going to get to see them anymore. But the reality of it is change was always going to come. It wasn't going to be around forever. But that should show you like how good these guys were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how good they were to hang on. Like even the Steve Levy's that are still hanging around in some capacity. Like seeing those guys have been it since we were kids. You know what I mean? Watching them at SportsCenter. Now you're starting to see some of this other talent come in and you're going like, what is this? Because we're not used to it. Because we've had these staples in our homes for so long. Now it's like I feel bad for some of the new guys coming in because I'm just going like, you're never going to live up to what we grew up with.
Right. You aren't Neil. And of course that's unfair to the newest talent, and they will do a phenomenal job as well. But like you said, Neil and among others were staples at the worldwide leader after 23 years moving on. And that's my entire life. Like Neil Everett is ESPN to me. That is all I've ever known Neil Everett to be. So I just wanted to shoot him some good luck as he moves forward from a legendary run at the worldwide leader. We do have to step aside here real quick, but still going to talk about more when we come back. Have the NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, and Alan, you were right about the Women's College World Series. Plenty more to talk about here in the Den. Don't go anywhere. Listening to Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM and AM 760. Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Alan Mia, taking care of the beautiful people as we finish out another week on this Aloha Friday. You can always join our conversation in the Den from 8 to 9 a.m. Hawaii time, Monday through Friday, here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and hawaiisportsradio.com. You can also catch this show and every other that we offer wherever you get most podcasts. That includes Wake Up in the Den, any play-by-play calls from the OIA and HPU seasons, and our whole year of Sharks Weekly shows. It's where we do a deep dive with HPU athletics into all the programs that they have. It was a really fun year. Closed that up last week. Normally those happen on Wednesdays. We'll keep the beautiful people posted on what's going on there going forward. As we know, going on here in the Den, we're shifting our focus to NBA Finals Game 4. Talked after Game 3 and before Game 3 about how vital that would be going forward and how Denver had really struggled on the road. And, the Nuggets responded with an all-time effort, a historic effort from their star duo of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, both of them posting 30-point triple-doubles, Jokic doing something that nobody had ever done before in NBA Finals history, posting a stat line of 30, 20, and 10. Just phenomenal. And funny enough, the season that he didn't win MVP after winning 2 straight MVPs, he's finally putting together the postseason run he probably would have liked, or fans of him would have liked, and now just sits 2 more victories away from his first NBA title, from the Nuggets' first NBA title. And Game 4 later today, with Denver leading the series as Jokic and the Nuggets look to inch closer to that elusive title. Tip-off around 2:30 p.m. Hawaii time. And I talked with Alan a little bit about this early. I talked with AC. I talked with anybody who listened. This feels like one of those games that if the Heat are going to continue to have a chance, if this is something that it's destined to go 7, today feels like one of those Jimmy Butler games. And obviously he hasn't necessarily been the same really since the first round, but also against the Knicks when he injured his ankle in the first game of the series against New York. And since then, he's had some up and down performances. We've talked about how he's looked indecisive on the court at times between either going at a defender or being passive, which is something he does well or better than most superstars in the league. If the Heat are going to win today, take down a team in Denver that is, in my opinion, just far more talented top to bottom on the roster. It's going to take, one, a phenomenal Coach Eric Spoelstra game plan, and two, one of those Jimmy Butler games, not to mention another stellar Bam defensive performance, and you hope that you can hold Nikola Jokic away from doing something historic once again. Tyler Hero still seems to be out as the series goes on. There were rumors talking about the potential of him coming back during Game 2, and we talked a bit here on Wake Up in the Den about if Tyler Hero should return, if it would mess up the chemistry between players, between the rotation that had gotten the Heat here to this point. But now I don't really think you can put it off any longer. You need the added scoring punch that he gives, even if it's just 15 minutes, 20 minutes a night where he comes off the bench and adds another shooter, because it adds spacing, it gives another option, it gives another thing for the defense to worry about, which in turn makes Jimmy Butler's job easier, makes Bam Adebayo's jobs easier, and hopefully his hand doesn't impact his defense. His defense not the most phenomenal thing, but it's not like it's an ankle injury on an already bad defender, so the Nuggets could just simply attack him per usual. Given our fans who might be a little more interested in betting the numbers for tonight, Denver is favored once again on the road, -3.5, and Miami didn't cover last time, though did a pretty nice job covering in Game 2. Also over-under set at 211 points. All three games thus far, the under has hit in the NBA Finals. One, because Miami's defense has been pretty good despite losing two of the games. I felt their process has been solid, and at the end of the day, like we've mentioned a few times, that Game 3, you can only do so much when two guys have historic type performances. So over-under set at 211, feel pretty good about the under hitting once again there. And in Game 4, it becomes almost a must-win for for the Miami Heat, as the Nuggets look to take that commanding 3-1 lead, Allen, and we've only seen one team in the history of the NBA Finals come back from that 3-1 lead, and that was with a prime LeBron James, who is arguably a top 2, top 1, top 3 player of all time.
Easy on the top 1 talk. I think top 1 will never be toppled. I don't care who you are. Michael Jordan played in an era.
Agree.
Michael Jordan played in an era where there was a lot of physicality in that league with no like these ticky-tack flops that LeBron plays with. So
and real defense, like hand checks and ability to actually play defense.
Yeah, so he'll never, in my mind. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from LeBron's talent.
No, he's phenomenal.
But to go to your point though, if they go down 3-1 for Miami, it's going to be a hard, very very, tall order to ask of them to try to come back from that. I think, again, they split here. They even it up. But the under scares me on this one, even though it's relatively about the same. It's a 2-point differential to last game. And the thing is, if you're able to contain Jokic and he doesn't, you don't allow him to have a night like he did, I think the under is kind of like what I think it'll hit the under. But if you can't contain Jokic, I don't know, that number at 211 starts to scare me a little bit, because Jokic has the ability to drop 50-60 on you himself. So
it's fair, especially considering his passing, the amount of offense that he can just help the Nuggets
too. If it's not him scoring, it's his teammates, because he generates the double team and then he just dishes out, and his guys right now are just hitting shots. So I think it's tough, but I like the under in the game. I think I like the Heat, though, to at least win tonight to even it up. I just think, matchup-wise defensively, I think they're so much superior. I just think you ran into two hot guys on a night where they couldn't miss.
No, I think that's fair analysis, and it's logical to think that way as well. If you're picking the Heat to win Game 4, I don't think the Heat have enough firepower, especially like I mentioned with no Tyler Hero still. I just don't think they have enough offensive firepower to keep up with the Nuggets should the Nuggets have a good offensive game. That's why the defense is so important for Miami. And if they're going to win, it means they had a good defensive game.
Which means the under hit. And that's why, know, in game 3, I took Miami and the under, because I figure it's like you said, if it's going to be under, that means they had a good defensive output, and, they should win that game. And again, you just ran into two guys that literally, those two guys, if you just minimize them by, think about it this way, you minimize them by 6 points each, you actually win that game. Miami wins that game if you're able to just kind of stop, 3 buckets, essentially. 2 or 3 buckets.
Changes everything.
Yeah, it changes everything. So, again, we talk about that 15-point difference in game 3. It was a lot closer than that point differential shows. And it's a matter of two guys just went, they played godlike and can't help that. It is what it is. So you move on, and I think if, like I said, you limit them, just a little bit. You're not asking them to limit it much, but just a little bit. I think Miami wins the game.
Yeah, should be an interesting one later on today. Mentioned it earlier. Tip off around 2:30 p.m. Hawaii time. Game 4 of the 2023 NBA Finals between the Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat. Got to step aside real quick for our last break of the day. When we come back, we'll chit-chat real quick about the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 4 of that. Not Game 4. Game 3 of that, and a little bit of eyes to Game 4. And then, like I mentioned before, Alan, you were right when it comes to the Women's College World Series. Going to chat about that in the final one as well. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM and AM 760. Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Alan Mia with you, closing out another week on this Aloha Friday with all the beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining us while doing whatever you're doing here today. We've made it through another week, Alan, and I mentioned at the top of the show, I apologized a little bit because it's my bad that I hadn't gotten the video out from last Friday yet. Part of that, I have a really old Mac. I finally figured out how to update my Mac computer, got Premiere updated, and now I finally have the tools to do it. I didn't realize that my tools were not going to allow me to, because I was going to do it on the flight over to Pittsburgh, only for my computer to say, hey, brah, why don't you slow down a little bit on that?
Pump your brakes, buddy.
Wanted to chit-chat a little bit quickly about the Stanley Cups, but I did want to apologize for not getting that out yet. I will have that out later today, along with this episode, hopefully tomorrow. And that's enough talk about our YouTube, because we're a radio show at this moment, Alan. And this radio show, we're going to talk about Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Your prediction? Kind of right. A goal for both sides off, as the Panthers do end up winning in OT and overtime, winning 3-2. There's nothing like overtime in the NHL when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs and the finals. There's no tie. It'll go until someone scores, and it will go the full duration. None of this, like you only get 5 minutes extra or 20 minutes extra, or like, one for one type thing like in the NFL. Like, this is legit. Like, don't care how tired you are. If you can't put it in the net, you're going to keep going. Right.
And so exciting, huge victory from Florida to avoid going down 3-0. They make it 2-1 now, and with Game 4 coming up here. And just kind of what I thought. I think they got a little shell-shocked early, but then they kind of buckled down. And then, of course, their offense came back and fought and clawed back and to force it to OT, and then being able to put it in OT to get the dub. Yeah,
and that's really all you needed to do if you were Florida, was not let Game 3 on your home ice slip away. And you predicted a 1-goal win for the Panthers, and that's exactly what happened. Stanley Cup Finals, they finally fight back in Game 3. Like you mentioned, 3-2 win in overtime to keep the series within grasp for the Eastern Conference representatives. What they do yesterday that changed things that you noticed, Alan? Was there anything that stuck out? Or was it just, like you mentioned, did they kind of come back from that shell shock finally to be the team that we've seen.
Well, it was a couple things. What I noticed was they got offensive production from their back end, their blue line, which they normally don't get. So, that's a huge coup. And then, of course, Matthew Tkachuk getting that goal late in the third, I think with only like 2:30 remaining or something like that to tie it up. And then only took 4 minutes into OT to net the winner. So I thought just defensively played a lot better, didn't allow the speed of Vegas and kind of their rampant style of offense get to them. They held their own and kept it close. And then, of course, when you get production also from the blue line as well on the offensive side, I think it bodes well for Florida. I think they need to find a way to maintain it because, look, you thought it was bad the first 3 games. Vegas is going to come out hungry.
Yeah.
Vegas does not like to lose, and they usually come out stronger and better the next game. So Florida's going to have their handfuls in Game 4. Can they do it? They can. Do I think, though, they'll do it? No. I think Vegas runs away with it in Game 4.
I don't think that's an unfair prediction, especially, like you mentioned, the Golden Knights, pretty good after a loss most of the time, comes out with an extra level of energy, it seems, a lot of times on the ice. So if the Panthers can absorb that first punch, and I say that kind of jokingly because obviously so many fights in hockey, but if the Panthers can absorb that first punch in that opening period, I do like their chances in Game 4, and then all of a sudden it becomes a best-of-3 series, and things change a little bit, but that Game 4 can be exceptionally big.
Literally, the keys for the game for Game 4 for Florida is really going to be Bobrovsky's got to play strong again. He played a very strong Game 3. You're going to have to have him stand on his head again in Game 4. You got to find ways to contain Jonathan Marchessault. He is so good right now, and he is literally on fire. You got to find ways to contain him, but the problem with that is you contain him. Guess what? They got a bevy of offensive players to go to in place of Jonathan Marchessault. But right now he's the hot hand for Vegas, so you got to find ways to contain him, and you're gonna have to have Bob, as they call him, really stand on his head again and make unbelievable saves and just keep his team in it. And then hopefully maybe you get some more production off maybe the blue line, but control the neutral zone is really – that's how you slow Vegas down. You got to control the neutral zone. You don't control the neutral zone, they're going to run rampant over you.
Yeah, important to control the neutral zone. Important Game 4 coming up of the Stanley Cup Finals on Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Hawaii time puck drop as Florida tries to knot things up at 2 apiece. Finishing things up on this Aloha Friday, kind of doing a whole Alan was right segment, which I'm sure is nice.
I like this segment. Ku'ulei will not give me this kind of segment, and it's hurtful. It really is, so I appreciate you, Paul.
See, I thought you might be a fan of this, especially before we lose you for a little bit of time, and in the second half of the show, it really has been the Alan was right segment because another one of your predictions from earlier in the week came true. The Oklahoma Sooners swept Florida State in the 2023 Women's College World Series, winning Game 2 3-1 to win their third straight title, their fourth in 5 years, and you can kind of say that they've won the last 4 because of the title game being canceled due to the pandemic. It's just been a dynasty these past few years for Oklahoma as they've just continued to show how impressive they are. They end off the season with 53 consecutive wins, a Division I record, end the year off at 61-1 overall, another Division I record, scored 500 runs for the third straight season. You'll never guess this, Alan. That's another Division I record.
What?
And they are the second team to win 3 straight national titles. UCLA was the first back in 1988 through 1990.
Oh, just one of many of UCLA's many national championships at the university level. Here's the thing. I think what was so memorable about it was you look at their transfer, the pitcher who started. All of a sudden, I drew a blank, but Alex Storako coming from Michigan to Oklahoma. Everyone was knocking this team for the way they celebrate, but then you watch the way they celebrate the winning, the tears, the crying. It's this team, honestly, for as excited they were never showing up their opponents. They were that excited and that happy for themselves as teammates and for the program itself, because you look at their celebration at the end and you go, this is a team who literally feels like they had to battle through everything to get to where they were, and they didn't take one single moment for granted, and that's why they celebrate it. So it makes you appreciate it, even more so. This Oklahoma team, I don't know if you'll see another team like the one this was built, and that's so hard to say because you look at the years with Jocelyn Hall, you're going like, I don't know if that team could have been topped, but you look at this team now, the one that just won.
I mean, the only
might
way
go
to beat
down
it,
might go down arguably as the best college team ever.
the only way to beat it is go unbeaten.
Yeah. And think about, you're right. And I never thought about it that way. The only way to beat them was to be undefeated, and you weren't going to have that happen.
It's truly, truly incredible.
Yeah, and really, again, it's kind of like what we predicted, though. I just think as good as Florida is, Oklahoma was on a different level, and the only one near their level, I think, was Stanford. And of course, they didn't make it. So, it was Florida State's job. I shouldn't say Florida because they'll get mad at me.
Yeah, they will get mad.
Florida State's job to try to, figure out what Stanford did to really give Oklahoma fits and try to replicate it. And they did it to their best ability. Just kind of came up a little bit short, and they ran into a buzzsaw in Alex Storako. So what can you do? Good pitching, like I said it the last few days here. Good pitching will always beat good hitting, and that's what you not only do you get good pitching, you got great hitting from Oklahoma.
For Alan Mia, I'm Paul Brecht. Thanks for listening. Bye.